let's take a breath and let's transfer over to some hashtag Haynes briefs. Chris Haynes kind of dropped a bomb in the middle of this game. Pun
you
intended.
Can't say dropped a bomb in reference to Haynes briefs.
It got messy on the timeline. And Chris Haynes said that there is no connection. The connection between Bradley Beal and the Bucks is non-existent. And that puts, Gerald, a massive road bump in the way to the Suns getting a 3-team deal to land Jimmy Butler.
It definitely does. And if you have been watching our last couple of shows, I've said this out loud. I don't know why the Bucks would be interested in Bradley Beal. It never made sense to me because as a team that's above the second tax apron, in order to trade enough pieces to take on Beal's $50.2 million salary, they'd have to give up around $57, $56, $58 million in outgoing contracts, which means you're losing Chris Middleton. You are losing Bobby Portis. You're losing Pat Connaughton. You're having to give up like 3 players just to bring Beal on, who is not the most natural fit. So that it never made sense to me. If this is true, that tracks more with what's going on in my head. Of course, it could just be posturing at this time of year where Milwaukee is leaking stuff in order to get more assets out of the deal. Mm-hmm. We see a lot of structuring, posturing, public reports like this happen. But if Milwaukee's genuinely not interested in Bradley Beal, one of the few destinations where maybe Beal would be willing to waive his no trade clause for, reportedly, this is going to be hard for the Suns to figure out where Bradley Beal goes that actually makes sense. A team would want him and Bradley Beal would want to go. That's tough because we've talked about all kinds of different destinations. Either Beal wouldn't want to go there or that team, it wouldn't make sense for them. I still say Orlando is my sneaky favorite. That would actually make sense as a landing spot for Beal, but I don't know if that's even realistic. There's been no report that they want him. So if the Bucks are out, this just got a whole lot harder.
It's definitely a speed bump in everything that it feels like the Suns have been working towards over the last 24 to 48 hours. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that it completely means that there's just no chance that it's happening. Mm-hmm. And because of that, it's not what we anticipated hearing in terms of expecting to hear, okay, Bill will open up his no trade clause to go to X, Y, and Z teams. Mm-hmm. This was not on the bingo card as the momentum is kind of built up over the last handful of days. But I think at some point it's going to shake in their favor. Just might not come around the way we kind of anticipated with Milwaukee being a player in terms of helping facilitate that trade.
Yeah, and I don't want to poo-poo on Chris Haynes, hashtag Haynes briefs, mm-hmm. but they're okay.
Come on, man.
He has had some instances in the past, specifically relating to the Phoenix Suns, where he has reported the wrong information. And I'm not saying that's what's happening right now because you did have Gambo go out on the timeline and basically say, haven't heard that much about Milwaukee being interested or not, mm-hmm. and saying that, there is a chance that worst case scenario, the Suns do get stuck with Beal and they would have those picks that they traded for to fill out the roster sooner rather than later. This is a lot of posturing. It's subterfuge season, mm-hmm. right? You're trying to get your way and you're trying to get it now. And maybe the Milwaukee Bucks aren't interested. Maybe it's the Chicago Bulls, right, who are trying to move salary and shift some things around. Maybe it's another team that we haven't even talked about yet. Maybe it's a team that we have, like the Orlando Magic, right? This doesn't mean it's not going to happen, but it did feel like we hit this momentum where it was like, this Butler trade's happening tonight. It's happening on our day off tomorrow. Like, right. It's happening. And this was a really big, let's pump the brakes here mm-hmm. and reevaluate. And maybe Suns fans need to sit back and be like, there's a world where Bradley Beal is on this team and Jimmy Butler is not.
Yeah, I mean, today's reporting was very much a pumping the brakes, not just from Chris Haynes, but from Mark Stein saying that the move that the Suns made last night was not necessarily because they have another one lined up. And Dwayne Rankin today reported that Mark Bartelstein, Bradley Beal's agent, came out and said, like, that stuff's not true about us waiving the no trade clause. We'd be open to it depending on the location, but it's not a for sure thing.
We all silly like the mayor.